Hello! In my previous videos, I talked about the mistakes we often make with inquiry-based learning and some of the myths and misconceptions around it. So in this video, I want to shift into practice and show you what inquiry actually looks like when we plan it intentionally. Let's begin. I have said before that the real goal of inquiry-based learning is helping students learn how to learn. And if that's the goal, then we need to teach them information literacy, the skills to find, evaluate, and use information thoughtfully and responsibly. Every inquiry task depends on the skills. Students need to know how to locate information, decide what matters, organize it, and judge whether it's reliable. I often hear teachers say that students get lost during inquiry, and yes, that happens. But usually it's not because inquiry itself is the problem. It happens because students haven't been taught the information literacy skills they need to move through the process with confidence. We cannot expect students to engage in meaningful inquiry if they don't have those skills. And if these skills are not taught progressively over the years, students will struggle. Again, not because they are unable, but because they haven't been shown how to inquire effectively. This is why mapping information literacy across grade levels is so important. Let me show you an example from the information literacy skills progression I designed. I will just walk you through one skill here so you can see how it works in practice. So here in this table, you can see one way of how information literacy might develop across MYP years 1 to 5. Let's focus on evaluating information because without the skill, research and inquiry become guesswork. For MYP Year 1 Grade 6 students, it starts with some practical steps. They need to identify different formats and media types, recognize who the author is and what the purpose of the information is. Learn to distinguish between fact and opinion. To practice this, they might highlight opinion words to see where bias may appear. Use tools like a source type chart to organize and track their information. For grade 7, we take information literacy a step further. Students begin learning to identify reliable sources with guidance, looking at things like the format, the date, and the author's expertise. They start using tools like the CRAB checklist under teacher's guidance. They also learn to understand the difference between primary and secondary sources and to spot expert authors. By grade 8, students are developing more critical information literacy skills. They learn to question the accuracy and perspective of the information they encounter. They begin using tools as the OPVL chart, maybe still under teacher's guidance, and also practice spotting biases in texts, recognizing missing voices, and comparing multiple sources on the same event. Then in grade 9, the thinking goes further. Students might use both OPVL and CRAB checklist more independently, looking closely at structure, purpose, bias, time frame, and authority. They learn to assess accuracy in visual data and to use author biographies to judge expertise. By grade 10, students are using their information literacy skills at a much deeper level. They apply tools such as OPVL and CRAB rigorously to evaluate sources, and they present their source analysis clearly in reports and reflections. They examine how biases, perspectives, and limitations in a source can affect its conclusions, and they start analyzing the systems behind information, how it's created, structured, and shared. This structured progression means that by the time students reach the personal project or any independent inquiry, they already have the skills they need. They can evaluate information confidently, make annotated bibliography for their extended essay in grade 11, and think critically about what they're using. By this point, students go beyond simply completing charts. They are evaluating information carefully and making their own reasoned judgments, precisely the skills inquiry-based learning is meant to develop. So with this progression, inquiry will never fail. If you would like to see the full progression, I go through it in more detail in my workshop and webinar, which you can find on my website. But I hope even this small snapshot helps you see how intentional skill building supports students in inquiry. To help teachers plan for this kind of intentional skill building, I created an IBL lesson planner. There is a teacher copy and a student copy. In the teacher version, there is space to record the specific skills you want to teach and the strategies you will use to teach them at each stage of the inquiry cycle. There are also sections for action and reflection, assessment and differentiation, so everything stays connected across the unit. I also created a student version, which guides students through the process step by step. This is especially helpful for beginners who are still building confidence with inquiry. It gives structure without taking away independence. Thanks for watching, and as always, I would love to hear how inquiry is working in your classroom. In my next video, I will explain the differentiation of inquiry-based learning. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and leave a comment below with other topics you would like me to cover.